Brands on Brands.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Brandon Birkmeyer here. And, I was at this event and the speaker was telling us how he had to change how he introduces himself. When he first gets on stage, he always tells a story. And he had to start to infuse comedy into that story he would tell because with where he is at in his career and a bit of his stature, he tends to come off as intimidating. That was the feedback he was receiving from people, was that he is a little intimidating. And that was a bit shocking to him because he is a people person. And the last thing he wants to do is be intimidating. He wants to be attracting people to him. So to alleviate some of that, he'd have to use levity. He'd have to open the door with some soft humor so that people would soften and not, they would connect in a way that felt more personal than, oh, this person is, an authority and super respectable. It's like, no, let's bring them in and ease that tension. And I thought for a lot of us, that self-awareness is huge. So that's what we're talking about today. A little bit about that self-awareness and some things we can do. Let's jump into it.
In a world where content is king and your reputation is your brand, how do you build a brand that matters? Welcome to Brands on Brands, a home for those that think different and push their boundaries. This is where branding that matters lives. Now, here is your host, Brandon Birkmeyer.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Brands on Brands. I'm Brandon Birkmeyer, your personal branding coach. Excited to be here today. Happy to have you listening. Thank you for doing that. And before we get started, just want to say this episode is sponsored by Front and Center Leadership. That is my book on Amazon today. If you are interested in checking it out, just go to brandsonbrands.com/books. and see if that's something you're interested in reading. It's all about personal branding and how you can build the brand of you. So that's my plug for today. Today's episode for the podcast is really about self-awareness and how leveraging self-awareness can really help us open ourselves up to being more engaging to our audiences, to our clients, to the people we work with and talk to each day. And how does that work? Well, first off, understanding our strengths and leaning into them is absolutely critical. What is it that you do well? What is it that people often say about you? What do you know about yourself that stands out to other people? How do you leverage that? So for me, I know that which is funny, I recently discovered I'm extroverted. Don't ask, right? But when I turned 40, I realized that sometimes I'm shy, but generally I get energy from people. So as I leaned into that, I realized if I go to places where there are people, I'm going to be successful because I enjoy it so much. As long as I have a couple people to bounce off of that kind of help me warm up and feel comfortable in the environment, I'm off to the races. So I lean into that. I make sure I show up to lots of places and that I am there from morning till night, and I am participating the whole time, and I'm bouncing around to as many people as possible because that's what I am geared towards. But also the part of self-awareness is realizing, well, what is it about you then that is different from other people that you might have to adapt to make yourself more engaging. So for me, because I am the person who likes to break the ice and get out there, I often come across people who are quieter, are more reserved, and I lean into that. And I'll break the ice, but then I immediately soften and slow down and quiet down and ask simple introspective questions about them to kind of get them talking, telling them about me. I'm making it easier for them to share. And because I love listening, and that's great. So depending on the person, with some people, I'll pull that out of them. And because I know if I am just my extroverted self and I just talk, I'll never learn anything about those people. So knowing that I have the capability to do that, I slow down, stop, and I tend to lean into doing the question asking and trying to get them to tell me a little bit about themselves, asking what's important to them, figuring out what makes them tick and what their personality things are. And then sometimes I'll leave that be and then I'll come back to them later. I don't have to have an hour conversation. I can pop back and then I've already warmed them up and broken the ice. So now there's a comfort there the second time or third time we talk. And that's my personality. Now, for others, I've encountered people where they show up and they just start talking. They'll say something very complimentary and then they'll just stop talking and they won't stop. And again, even with two extroverted people, that's a little jarring. So figuring out some self-awareness there. Someone said something funny to me. They go, people tell me I talk a lot. And I just embrace that. I don't think it's a bad thing anymore. And then they just talk for an hour. And I'd like to reframe that. If someone's telling you something about yourself, I don't think you should interpret it in a negative way, but there's definitely a message there. And so for those people who might hear that they talk too much, I wouldn't say necessarily that the message is talk less, do your thing. But what we might actually be saying is listen more. If you're the talkative type, you may be the type to talk over people and not even ask any questions about them. And if you left the conversation and they didn't say any words other than a couple of nods that made them feign interest, what you might be hearing is that you're not a good listener. And it's not going to build you any friendships. And it's definitely not going to help your personal brand if the people you're talking to, you're really talking at. So if you have a skill, I think sometimes it's good to look at the opposite of that skill and say, okay, what do I need to nurture on the other side of that to build some balance? If I'm a talker, maybe I need to put some effort into how do I be a great listener also. Use the talking to fill in the gaps of a conversation or to initiate things with people, but then lean into the opposite and say, well, I know I'm a great talker, but how do I become a great listener? We all have things like that. So leveraging that self-awareness. I know some people who they are not the extroverts. They are great in small groups. So they lean into that. They say, okay, I know that. I'm going to find my conference buddy. I'm going to find that person who I can network with. I'm going to find other people that are energetic, and I'm going to surround myself with those people. I'm going to lean into their energy, get energy from them. And then I might be the organizer, the curator, the host that introduces people and lets them go at it in terms of conversation. To leverage those skills. If you're in your office and you're that person that likes to bounce around at different desks, be that person. But also maybe invite people to you, invite people to have conversations or to meet you for lunch so that it's not just fleeting and bouncy. There's something that's more depth there. There's a balance of depth versus brevity. Do a little bit of both. So yeah, start by asking those questions. Like, what are the things people say about me or that I hear a lot? And then say, okay, what's the opposite of that maybe I need to lean into? That's a little bit of self-awareness for you there. And the other thing is, what do you consider strengths? Maybe people aren't telling you, but you consider them strengths. Are you using them? Are those things shining? Are people seeing that? All of those things. I think we tend to shy away from them. We try to make ourselves small. I'm not saying that. I'm saying recognize the things that make you truly you, leverage them, and then also see how you could figure out the opposite side of those things to really let people into your world and connect. So a little self-awareness on those things. Just like for me, I know these episodes, some of them can go long. I might need to do a few short ones because not everyone's going to like the longest episode and rant in the world. Not everyone's going to just want to hear me talk every time. So I balance those things out with interviews when I can. We have some of those coming. You got to figure out not just what you do well, but how you can get the most out of your engagements with other people. And a lot of it is really taking time to say, okay, maybe I need to do a little self-awareness, a little self-exploration today to figure those things out. That's what I got for you guys today. I hope you found it valuable. And as always, I hope you keep on tuning in and catch us next week. I will catch you next time.
You've just taken your marketing knowledge to another level with this episode of Brands on Brands. But we have plenty more ways to help you build a brand that matters. Head over to brandsonbrands.com for resources, as well as access to our blogs, videos, and exclusive coaching sessions with your host. Be sure to visit brandsonbrands.com.